welcome to your go-to Detroit Pistons podcast, The Pistons Pulse, co-hosted by me, Bryce Simon of Motor City Hoops, a former D1 Hooper and current teacher, husband, and father of 3 amazing kids.
And I'm Omari for the second Pistons beat writer for the Detroit Free Press.
And of course, we're always blessed to be joined by our producer, Wes Davenport. If you are not listening to Wes and Blake Silverman over on the Pin Down on the Detroit Bad Boys YouTube channel, you absolutely should be, along with reading all of Omari for the second's work on the Detroit Free Press. And shameless plug, you should be subscribed to the Motor City Hoops Substack, which is absolutely free for all of your post-game notes and analysis and the occasional video breakdown. O2, I don't know where to start. Thank God Wes is here. They've won 5 games in a row since we last recorded. I don't think we've ever been able to say that. As last night's game, which we're not going to start with, was getting towards the end of regulation, I was like, of course this team would win 6 in a row and then lose the game the night before we're supposed to record. No, they come out and pull that one out. But let's go back. We can't go back through all 5 of these games. Just a quick recap since we last recorded. They have beat the Memphis Grizzlies. They have beat the Utah Jazz. They beat the Brooklyn Nets. And then the 2 most recent games, the back-to-backs, was the Philadelphia 76ers and the win over the Washington Wizards. Let's start with the Philadelphia game, and then we will get into bigger picture stuff for the 9-2 first place in the Eastern Conference Detroit Pistons. Cade Cunningham, fourth quarter, no longer an issue.
Yeah, he's been arguably the best fourth quarter player in the league. And we've seen a few times this season, it takes maybe a minute to get going, but like once he gets going, he's unstoppable. And just how decisively he closed that game out, right, with a poster on Drummond and then the turnaround step back. He's had so many of those moments already this season. I actually need to go back and check and see where he is in fourth quarter scoring.
No. I got it, Omari.
Oh, okay. All right. Come on. Go ahead.
This is why we do podcasts together, because we work together well. He actually has been surpassed by Giannis. Of all people in points per game. Giannis is at 11.8. Cade is 11.4. Here's the thing, though. Cade Cunningham in fourth quarters, 54% from the field, 48% from 3, 87% from the line, 2.5 assists, half a turnover. I think you'll take that if you're a Detroit Piston fan.
Yeah, he just gets better as the game goes on. I thought, especially last night, and we'll get to that game, but it's almost like the meme of the guy with the controller and he like leads in. Like that's like Cade as like the game goes on. Like he just gets deeper and deeper into a rhythm, and he's got to be, we have so much season left, but you talk about clutch player of the year. That's exactly what you want, from somebody who is of that caliber. And he's making his early case for that. I think there's a few guys making early cases for certain awards, but Cade, if there's an award, he's making a case for us, that one.
So you mentioned clutch. How about the Pistons have played the second most clutch minutes in the NBA this season? You want to guess where they rank in terms of net rating in those 30 clutch minutes this year?
I feel like they got to be top 10, if not top 5. I would guess 5.
How about top 2? They are second in the NBA in net rating. They are third in offensive rating in clutch minutes. They are fourth in defensive rating in clutch minutes. This team is just, and obviously both of these games, OG, unnamed YouTube user, says 76ers game was a great team effort. Will313J says, what up, Doe, O2 and Bryce. We'll talk about the Cade triple-double from last night in just a little bit. But this team is figuring it out. And that was another game. If you look at the box score from the Sixers game, so Ron Holland has to start because Stu and Harris are out. Clinton plays 6 minutes. Javonte Green has to play 28 minutes. Obviously, Paul Reed is playing. I do think it's important to bring up the entire roster that Trajan Langdon has put together, because right now it is holding this team together. I looked at the injury report earlier today, Omari. They have 5 rotation players that didn't play on Monday night. Obviously, that wasn't the case in this Sixers game that we're talking about right now, but it was a lot of those guys as well. The depth that these guys have is so impressive. And what JB has done in terms of creating a culture, O2, and I think it showed out in that Sixers game. And I realize Embiid didn't play, but Maxey did, Edgecombe did, Oubre Jr. did. And it was just, as YouTube user says, Quentin Grimes played. It was a great team effort. They figured it out, and they just find ways to win. And that's a game where we should probably talk about Jalen Duren, because I don't know that we'll talk about him a bunch from last night's game. 21 points, 16 rebounds, 2 steals, 2 blocks, 8 of 11 from the field. Free throw shooting is awesome. I mean, he played incredible in a game that he needed to dominate, and he did that over this stretch of games. Not just that Sixers game, this stretch of games that they've been on this winning streak.
Yeah, I mean, he's really stepping up and asserting himself as a number 2 guy on this team in a lot of ways, whether it's just setting the tone defensively, which I think him and Isaiah Stewart have great parts, and the Pistons having the top rim defense in the league through the early portion of the season. But it's how assertive he's been on offense. I know last episode we talked a bit about him taking, guys off the dribble, but it's not just his face-up game and handle that look better. I think his touch all around looks better. He's got the post-up game going a little bit, like his jump hook. Obviously, he's the same putbacks and lobs he always has. He's even knocked down a couple jumpers. So just the comfort level that he's had as far as that. And then, his free throw shooting too. 5 of 7 at the line. He's had to have been one of the top bigs in the league as far as free throw shooting through the early portion, not just from accuracy, but from how much he's been getting to the line, because he's almost doubled that from last season. So he's checking a lot of boxes for him right now. We talk so much about, who's the guy on this team that will get things going if Cade doesn't have it going. And, Duren is a great compliment with Cade, and he's also been able to make stuff happen on his own, which I think is a big improvement regarding last season, where I think it was more so guys creating for him.
Cheryl Brown says, hello, everyone. Exciting game last night. Absolutely. I see the super chats. We got some other things started. I promise we'll get to it. I don't want to kind of lose track of where we're at right now. So usually we try to get to those super chats right away. And trust me, we greatly, greatly appreciate those. I promise we'll get to them before we end the segment here. But I do want to stay on track here. Omari Sankofa 01 says, hi, Bryce. Hi, Omari. Bryce, I signed up for your Substack. Honestly, can't keep up with it all these days. Yeah, I think last night's game was like 6 pages of notes, O2. Sometimes I'm like, there's no way people are reading these whole things, because I had a page just like breaking down overtime and another stretch in the game. But I can't help myself.
I mean, last night's game was by far, I filed instant gamers at the buzzer, which, at the buzzer, within 10 minutes of the buzzer, usually that just recapped what happened in the game, but usually like overarching notes, like this player did that, or, here's a trend I've been following. Last night's was the longest I've written by far. It was like almost twice as long as some of the ones I've written, just because so much happened in the last 7 minutes of that game. It seemed like it was settled one way, maybe with like 3-4 minutes to go. And then, that was just a crazy one right there. So long story short, I was in the same boat. I don't know how you watch that game and write about it and not write a lot, because so much happened.
Before we move on, we do need to talk about Karis LeVert, because obviously he didn't play in the game on Monday night. I think he's rounding into shape a little bit here. We had somebody kind of call me out, not you, about, questioning how he had played up to this point. In that game against Philly, he had 14 points. I thought his defensive impact was good. And here's the crazy thing. I was looking at their stats today. Karis is over 40% from 3 right now, 41%, only 45% on 2s. The entire box score doesn't look crazy, but I do wonder if he's starting to round into shape here a little bit. And I think what I was excited about with Karis was the size that he has and the defensive impact that could bring. And I feel like we're starting to see that a little bit more, while he's still kind of figuring out where his role is offensively.
Yeah, I think he checks some of the THJ boxes for this team, as far as just being able to come in and get a timely bucket when there may be an overall low in the offense. Those 2 threes he hit to end the first quarter and the second were just huge, and it feels like kept whatever momentum Philly had, from becoming too much to control. And that was his best game. Obviously, he didn't play against the Wizards last night, but I thought against Brooklyn he was pretty solid. In the game before that, he was solid too. So JB has been very defensive of him, just saying it's tough to come in with a new team, and you're dealing with the hamstring. You miss some of preseason, miss some of the season, and that's have to find your groove midway through. But I think his performance against Philly showed exactly how he fits this team. Like, he could just come in and get you a bucket. And sometimes he just needs somebody who could come in and just get you a tough bucket. He doesn't need to be creative for, but obviously could, still knock things down off the catch. Good passer. Like, he brings you some size on defense. So, I keep talking about checking boxes, but again, he's another guy that gives you just enough, I think, over the course of the game, like especially against Philly. Maybe that goes a bit differently if he doesn't hit those shots, but he does.
YouTube user says, I've read every word of your notes, Bryce. Well, I have Substack read it out loud to me. That's a great feature. If Substack will read you to it, I don't know what the voice is. I'm sure it's better than mine. So that is a great feature. Let's go ahead and move to Monday night's game. Caleb says, I was thinking I would want more from JD offensively with everyone out. I will actually talk about a player who I did have a little bit of a negative vibe, not vibe, but like I thought missed an opportunity. We'll talk about that in a second. And then he says, and then looked at the box score and JD still had 19 and 14. Great for a relatively quiet night. My notes were kind of the same, Omari. I didn't think Duren came out with the same type of energy that we had seen throughout the year. And then all of a sudden he had 18 and 10 midway through the third quarter. At the very least, Duren's going to put up these numbers and it is productive. Like, it does matter. The turnovers are up in this game, but he still found a way to score, found a way to rebound. But the story of the night, of course, is my guy, Daniss Jenkins, right? Like, we don't need to talk about anybody else yet. We can talk about Daniss Jenkins and his performance on Monday night. Obviously, I'm bearing the lead here a little bit. I don't even think that's the right term. Wes, help me out. But I know everybody wants to talk about Cade, but I actually want to talk about Daniss. I do want to talk about Daniss because what a shot, what a fourth quarter, what a moment for the two-way guard that we've been really, seeing praises going back to Summer League.
Yeah, it seems like Daniss has had this great streak of just rising to the moment and like making a case for himself every time he's been on the floor, really dating back to last Summer League. I thought in the G League last season, he got better as the year went on. And obviously this past Summer League, I thought he was one of the best players on the floor every time he was out there on both ends. And I think most people would agree with that. He's just the guy that's popped for a while. And I would say more so than any other two-way guy the Pistons have had, since I've covered the team in the last 6 years, like somebody who looks like he could actually play real NBA minutes on a consistent basis. So he had to wait a bit for his opportunity. I think he had only played garbage time minutes, maybe in that Cleveland game, and not a whole lot before last night. But they really needed him, and he was great. I mean, 24 points, 8 rebounds, 3 assists. I think he had a couple steals, and then those 2 threes in the final 3 or 4 seconds of the game, including the second one at the buzzer, where like it was just bodies flying up and down the floor. Whatever the Pistons wanted to do got kind of blown up, and it just came down to him hitting the shot and he hit it. So, that's what he works toward. And it just, again, continues that trend of him rising to the occasion whenever they've had to call his name.
So I want to quickly say something here. Bob Carrington has to be more engaged in that moment than what he was. Like, he's just standing there. And I realized that this play was not designed for Daniss. I realized that the action was somewhere else. And I'm not trying to take anything away. But as someone who tries to really analyze the game, I'm watching that and I'm like, man, Bub, just deny the pass. He's just standing there. They have to have a 3, deny the pass. But Daniss with the huge shot. Here's what I loved is then they go to overtime and he immediately makes 2 hustle plays. So he follows that up. He had a crazy hustle play off a Javonte Green block. Javonte Green blocked a 3-point attempt on the very first possession defensively, and Jenkins went and hustled. I think he saved it out of bounds actually, and Cade got a transition layup. And then he had another one on the next defensive possession where he got a hustle defensive rebound. So everybody's going to remember the shot making, and rightfully so. But what Jenkins does goes beyond that. And I thought it was cool. I realize I'm kind of, I don't know, inflating this a little bit, but we've really supported Daniss Jenkins and his play, thinking he's a legit NBA basketball player, a guy who could be your 5th guard or 6th guard somewhere in the depth chart between 11 and 15. I'm not saying last night justifies all of that, but it sure looked pretty good, O2.
Yeah, he came out and he was productive, and he fits, I think, into that bench unit where it's just a team of guys who just find different ways to be productive. Like I thought him out there with Paul Reed, You got some minutes with Bobby Clipman and Chaz. Like, those guys just played hard and made some things happen. And I thought Daniss really was the ringleader of that. And I agree. I think he's a guy who's shown at this point that if he's your third point guard, you probably feel pretty good about that, right? He could perform when called upon. He could impact the game in a lot of different ways. He actually had 4 steals last night. Just all around, great, well-rounded stat sheet. Shot 9 for 17 overall, 4 of 6 from 3. There's really nothing bad you can say. That's everything they needed from him, and they needed every single ounce of that effort to pull that win off.
Okay, I'm going to keep doing this just because I'm going to lean into the bit. So we're still not going to talk about Cade Cunningham. I want to talk about Paul Reed, because Paul Reed is absolutely amazing. I love this dude as a third center. He comes in the game in 13 minutes, has 8 points, 9 rebounds, a steal, a block. He brings energy. He gets out and hedges, recovery block, hits a mid-range jumper, which B-Ball Paul, that's his patented move. Cade has 17 patented moves. He's added a new one every game. Now it's the spin move off of people. But B-Ball Paul's patented move is the mid-range jumper. In all seriousness, Omari, this is one of those things. Yeah, Mr. Ray says, my guy, B-Ball Paul. This is one of those things where I think, give Trajan Langdon some credit. The third center on your team matters. It does. And we've talked about it. I don't know how much he can help you win in the playoffs, but seeding for the playoffs matters. And B-Ball Paul is an 82-game player in terms of he can help you win games in November in the regular season when you're shorthanded in the front court. And I thought we've seen that.
Yeah, when they signed him last year, we talked about how the team really hasn't had an effective third center, and it's hurt them because there's just going to be games where Duran's hurt or Isaiah Stewart's hurt or somebody's in foul trouble, and that matters. Paul Reed is he's like the Tasmanian devil. However long he's going to be out there, he's just going to play at 125%. And giving his all, whatever he's doing. He had that insane reverse dunk against Philly. That was in the Philly game, right? That's just wow. He's whether it's a block, he may knock down a jumper. He's everywhere on defense. That's exactly what you need from a third center. And especially beyond that, you could just put him in a game if you need some type of spark. And he could just do that. He told us earlier this season, he just looks at plus minus, and he's no matter how long I'm out there, whether it's 5 minutes, 10, 15, I want to have a positive plus minus. So he's literally just trying to do literally everything he can in that short amount of time to make sure they outscore the other team while he's on the court. So that's his motivation. That's his mindset. And it's been huge for them this week.
To your point, and listen, plus minus, take with a grain of salt, especially in smaller samples, because according to plus minus, Isaiah Stewart is other than Tobias Harris, is the worst quote unquote Piston on the team. And we all know that's not true. But B-Ball Paul does have a positive plus minus. His on off is a positive 3.7. And I think some of the, Caleb says his timing on the pick and roll traps is a chef's kiss. Absolutely. He's so good. He truly, if there's one thing he's NBA good at, it's hedging, playing at the level, whatever, being there and doing that is really good. Andrew says bringing back the set shot like a golfer with a swing from the 1940s. It works. Mr. Ray, he gives you effective minutes, even if they are sparse. All of this is so much. And then now we got to go to another guy. I promise I didn't mean to do this. I was planning on going to Cade next, but Fallbuck says, Pistons fan for 35 years. Love this team. First time watching live. Thank you. Love the pod. Javonte Green in overtime was so good. And YouTube user mentions him as well. Props for his hustle and a double-double in all the Cade Cunningham 45-point triple-double talk and 30 missed shots. We didn't even mention, where's Javonte Green's love on ESPN and social media for the double-double in overtime on Monday night?
Yeah, 11 points, 11 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 blocks, and a steal. In 38 minutes, he got his first start of the season. Honestly, Javonte Green is kind of if Paul Reed were a guard, honestly, or a wing. Just insane effort for however long he's going to be out there, and he's going to give you a little bit of everything. He's going to be flying up and down the floor. He literally did everything last night. Literally, like, you could name at least one play he did in every aspect of the game that made a difference, whether it was blocking 3-pointers or knocking down a timely three, or that cutting dunk he had late in overtime that helped clinch it. Also, good pass read by Duran. Like, he just does everything, and that makes a difference on the bench. I think bench Bob's a bit of a, like, every team has like a quote unquote bench Bob, but like, this team has guys who are just going to come in, and you're going to know that they're out there, however long that they're out there, and that makes a difference, especially on nights like last night where you're battered, and it really just comes down to who has more energy.
I think what you said is exactly what I think when I watch some of these guys. If Paul Reed was the backup center, if Javonte Green was your 82 game and playoff first wing off the bench, I don't know. If Daniss was your, third guard or fourth guard, this team might be in trouble, but those guys aren't. They're in the perfect role. And I in different ways, I think the same about them, where you are going to notice these guys when they're on the court and they're taking advantage of their opportunities. So first and foremost, shout out to them for taking advantage of those opportunities, for Daniss being ready for that moment and living up to it and embracing it, for Paul Reed doing it every second he steps on the floor, and for Javonte Green. But I also want to give credit to Trajan Langdon for building out a roster that has guys like this for moments in the season like this. And then I want to give credit to JB Bickerstaff and his staff for having every member of the roster ready to go, come in and contribute. So shout out all of those guys. Listen, we're going to talk Cade Cunningham when we come back, but I lied and I'm sorry. And I promise as soon as we come back, we will get to these super chats. I promise we will go to the super chats as soon as this is over. We'll get through those and then we'll come back and talk Cade Cunningham. We'll do that right after this.
All right, we are back with segment 2. Big thanks to the super chats we've gotten. We never asked for them, but you guys give them anyway. We deeply do appreciate that. We'll just take this first one from OG unnamed YouTube user. Was that the greatest bad triple-double of all time?
I guess we can get into the Cade stuff here. Yeah, I forgot this was one of the questions.
No, that actually wasn't one of that was not one of the super chats.
We'll come back. YouTube users with us. We can come back to it. Where's this first one? Coca Brova.
Yeah,
thank you so much for the super chat. Thank you. So he said, what up, though, fellas? Got a couple thoughts I would love your take on. Trade Karras and Duncan plus draft capital for Trey Murphy III and Hawkins. Have Ivy play 26 plus minutes off the bench like Ginobili and retain him. I do think this is a worthy conversation. Again, I realize we're kind of breaking the game up with it, but I wanted to get to this. I guess, where are you at with this in general, Omari? Because at some point they do have to reintegrate Jaden Ivey into this team. And I think this team has started out in a way you have to be thinking, can we make a run? Like, can we be the best team in the East? Can we go represent the Eastern Conference in the NBA Finals? And do we have the team right now to do it? Or do we need to go make a move like this question, this super chat is bringing up? Oh, this is RB Nesbitt. All right, our guy. Thank you. All right, perfect. What do you think on this, specifically Trey Murphy III and just this idea in general?
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to consolidate Duncan Robinson and Karras LeVert into one player, like that player probably is Trey Murphy. He's been the apple of the trade machine I think for a long time for the Pistons fans and every other team that wants a talented young wing, which he is, and he would fit this team like a glove on both ends. When you say draft capital, I'm curious how much draft capital it would take to pry him away. Because if I'm New Orleans, I'm probably just not going to trade him. It would take a very hefty offer to me to really strongly consider it. And there are probably other players on my roster I would prefer to trade first before you get to Trey Murphy. But with that said, I mean, if he's available and you're the Pistons, you do have draft capital now that you can play with to go for that type of deal. And, Karras and Duncan are like those types of mid-range salaries that you would use to acquire a player like that. So, and then Jordan Hawkins, who was one of the best shooters of his class and hasn't really worked out yet. But I think they drafted him while Trajan was down there, and he's like a hypothetical. This could be, a fun guy if the shot starts to fall at a higher clip. So, yeah, hypothetically, it all sounds good. It's just when you talk about the price to get Trey Murphy, like how expensive are you talking, and at what point does that not become feasible?
So, for what it's worth, Trey Murphy is one of the few guys, like my short list of guys, I would be excited if Trajan makes what I would call kind of an all-in move. Trey Murphy is one of those names. I'll just, Jaren Jackson Jr. is another. I think Jaren is the ideal guy to acquire. I have no idea what Memphis is going to do. Obviously, there's a lot of chatter right now around Ja, but if they trade Ja, are they also going to want to get rid of Jaren or, whatever? And then the other guy is Lauri Markkanen. I don't know how I would rank those guys. I know Jaren would be number one for me of those guys, depending on the price tag, obviously. And that's what it comes down to. I think what this question also makes me think of is, one, we haven't seen Jaden Ivey still. We still don't have that answer. And we need that answer, but I think before you make a move. Second thing that is interesting about this, Omari, is would you rather make a move like this where you're giving up a lot of draft capital, or would you rather add in a Jaden Ivey or a Ron Holland and have to give up less draft capital? Where would you lean in terms of keep all of these young guys and relinquish some draft capital? Or would you prefer, you don't have to name one, but would you prefer to maybe let go of one of the young guys and not give up one of the first round picks of how many ever it's going to take?
Yeah, like when you're the Pistons and you already have like some young wings who could develop into Trey Murphy types, or like at least give you a lot of the same stuff from an athleticism and defense and just overall shot making standpoint, like that probably does make you lean more toward, maybe we don't need to go all in on this particular player. Again, like I think he fits what this team needs, like from that perspective. But you look at what Ron does on some nights, it's like he's doing things at a high level already. He didn't have the best game against the Wizards, but like you see the outlines of him being able to make that type of impact. Like Asar as well. He's a guy that we need to talk about probably along with Cade at some point, but he's found a way to make an impact. So do you want to sacrifice your capital when you already have those wings? I mean, it's something you have to think about.
Yeah. So also thank you, RB, for this one as well. Says Cade is 6'8", 243, 02. Can you vouch for that? And then with the way JD has been playing, the upside of Asar, Ron, and Ivy, we don't need to make a big trade. I think 02 and R are in line with that in terms of until we see Ivy get back and what he looks like. I heard the Hoop Collective, which we may be trying to get a guest on from over there at some point in the near future, mention him being 6'8" as well. I feel like when he went through the draft process, his measurements actually came in lower. I mean, I think he has definitely gotten stronger, like definitely. But I mean, I've walked by Cade, I guess. 6'8" seems like a little bit of a stretch. 6'7" in shoes, maybe?
I think he's 6'8" when his hair is unbraided and his hair is out. Like he gets the Ben, like how Ben Wallace was like 6'9", and he's probably a little bit closer to 6'7". Yeah, I don't know if Cade is quite 6'8". Like I think you see him stand next to Isaiah Stewart, who's just at 6'8", and Stu's probably got at least a good inch on him. Like again, like these guys wear different shoes. Like you've got the hair. It's kind of tough to tell just from watching them play or even sitting next to them. But I feel like it's still more so like 6'6", so they could appear 6'8" when the hair is out. But his official listing, I'm pretty sure, is like actually 6'6" now. He was 6'8" in college, and then he got to the NBA Combine, and it was apparently 6'6". But he also could have grown. He's 23. We actually were on a call with the league a few weeks ago before the season started, and somebody asked, like, well, what's the criteria for height and how you measure? And they pointed out that guys are drafted at like 19, 20 years old and they're still growing. So it's funny, like we're in year 5 for Cade, and like his height's still like this great debate and mystery. I would guess he's still around 6'6".
Cade as the most athletic, unathletic. Magic was kind of like that testament to Cade's recent level that it's not a crazy compare. Here's what I will say about Cade's athleticism. I know we joke about it. I think he looks more athletic. Like I truly do. I think he looks more He had a transition play the other night where it looked like he was shot out of a cannon. Like it was crazy. And I think it's because of his added strength that maybe he can just play a little bit more explosive or whatever. I do think he looks more athletic. I do think and obviously he's dealt with a lot of lower body injuries early in his career as well. A YouTube user also said Cade looks really tall next to Duren with no braids. I think Duren would be shorter than what you would expect, like for the way he plays. It's not like Duren's a 7-footer or something like that. Like his height. I don't know what his combine measurements were. I don't know, because this is just recently changed where they have to at least do measurements. We'll see if Jalen Duren's was there. It says 6'11", but yeah, I don't think he actually measured. So, anyway, yeah, so this says we get another super chat here. Duren is legitimately 6'11", 265 now. I would say 6'11" in shoes. I just don't. When I've seen Duren in person, I haven't thought like 7-footer, I guess.
Yeah, I think he's more in like the 6'10" range. I don't know if he's quite 7 feet, but like he's one of those 6'10" guys where like, he's still bigger than a lot of 7-foot guys just because of the strength and athleticism. But yeah, I think he's a little bit closer to 6'10" than he is 7 feet.
All right. What's up, guys? Jack from Malaysia here. What a start. Yes. Thank you so much, for joining us, from Malaysia. Love it. I had somebody reach out the other day, like talking about, where they're from and having listeners from all over the world, not just the country, but also all over the world. Mr. Ray says, Coach of the Year front runner in my eyes. Shout out to JB. The comments are amazing right now, guys. I'm having a little trouble keeping track. So if we miss one, I apologize, but we really appreciating the engagement and the excitement. We need to talk about Cade Cunningham's game. All right. So earlier YouTube user mentioned ugliest triple-double of all time. Probably. Like, I don't know. I didn't go back through the box scores.
Are we counting triple doubles with turnovers?
Sure. It's still he missed 30 shots. What was it? 31 shots?
Yeah.
It was so inefficient, Omari.
I read he was the first player to miss 30 shots since Kobe in like 2002. And that play had Kobe energy for sure. Like at the end of the day, I'm Kobe. I'm the guy who has the best chance at making his shot. So I'm going to keep shooting. And it did work out for Cade in the end. He still found that second gear. He tapped into the clutch energy he's had all season. I think he was 3 for 6 in the fourth quarter. It just seemed like he had dead legs all night, and then all of a sudden he just got a couple of them to fall. So people have talked about the efficiency, this and that. I feel like him and Daniss kind of willed them into that game, honestly. And I don't know if they get back into that game without that whole sequence of Cade getting knocked to the ground, tailbone leaving, coming back, and then just starting to get to the rim at will, which he had kind of struggled to do. Just an insane game overall.
So I was on with AB, Anthony Bellino, and Lomas Brown earlier tonight. And Lomas, which, by the way, is like every time I get a goal in there, it's one of the coolest moments. Like, it's so surreal just getting to talk on the radio with Lomas Brown. I remember having his, I guess they call them baseball cards, but his football card when I was a kid. And for Lions fans, like, this may not be a big, but for me, every time I'm like, this is awesome. I'm talking Detroit Pistons basketball with an NFL great. It makes my night every time. But anyway, Lomas asked me, what makes a player a superstar in the NBA? And he was asking, in reference to Cade. And I said, I think what Cade did on Monday night is what makes a player a superstar. That was a face of the franchise performance. And I realize everybody went on social media and they're clowning the inefficiency and all of that. And listen, my notes are littered with, why does he keep missing short, yada, yada, yada. But you know what a lot of dudes would have done? They would have checked out with 8 minutes to go in the fourth quarter whenever it looked like there was no hope. Or they would have checked out after Cam Whitmore. We'll talk about this more in a second because I'm going to make some people mad with my take on this. But after Cam Whitmore contests him at the rim and Cade takes an awful fall, it would have been so easy for Cade not to go back in that game 0-2. Nobody would have faulted him for not playing the rest of the game. And instead, he stays in the game, uses that motivation, wills them to a victory along with Daniss Jenkins and company. Like, that performance to me is the epitome of a face of the franchise. That's not just, isn't this what people want? People complain all the time that the stars in the NBA don't play. We're November 10th, and Cade says, I'm going to value this game, and I'm going to continue to play to try to get my team a victory on November 10th. And he played 45 minutes. You know how exhausting it is to take 45 shots in an NBA basketball game? So to the question of, do we think Cade's stamina has gotten better this year? I think it absolutely has. Now, is he gassed right now? I think he probably is. But as bad as that triple-double was in terms of the shot making, I'm actually very impressed with Cade Cunningham coming out of that game and what he did putting that team on his back.
Yeah, anyone who criticizes the efficiency for that game, I would just say go back and watch the game. Watch all 45 shots and tell me how many of those shots did you think he should not have taken? Because I can't think of one shot that whole game where I'm like, oh, he should have taken that. You know, like they just weren't going there. But he was taking the shots he should have taken every time, especially on a night where so many guys are out. Sarr's out, Karras is out, Tobias, he missed his 5th game. Like you're down a lot of players who have been contributing to winning this season. So if there was a night to take 45 shots and put the team on your back, it was that night. And it did work out in their favor because they won. So that's the other aspect of it too, is the efficiency to me doesn't matter if you won the game, because clearly it was a winning strategy. And that was a game that they almost lost. It really did come down to Cade and Daniss hitting some ridiculous shots down the stretch to keep them in that. So, that's the ultimate. I'm looking at the stats versus I'm actually watching this game type of performance. And that's what I would say. Like, go back, watch it. Tell me how many of those shots were like bad shots. Like, I don't think any of them were bad shots.
Wes says he was a point per minute, man. 46 points, 46 minutes. That's efficient as well.
It is.
We gave Joel Embiid all sorts of love for scoring a point every minute a couple of years ago before the injuries hit him. The other thing I'll say is, I don't think that this is who Cade wants to be. I've always said this. I don't think Cade wants to shoot 46 shots. I think Cade wants to be a creator, a distributor, a fourth quarter closer. I'm not saying Cade. I think where I was wrong was I think Cade is going to end up being the leading scorer on this team when it's competing for titles. And I was wrong there, but I don't think he wants to be a guy that is having to do what he did. But because he's the face of the franchise, he looked and said, I'm starting with Javonte Green, Ron Holland. We have Klintman, Lanier, Jenkins, Paul Reed coming off the bench. I better be ready to take all of these shots. And again, it's not easy to miss and miss and miss and miss and then keep coming back the way that he did. I know we want to do a little bit of just like bigger picture stuff. So I want to leave with this. So Big Dog Piston says, totally disagree. He will always be a big time scorer. It's who he is. I'm not saying he's not a big time scorer. I'm saying I think he wants to be a distributor. And I think that does show up in what he does in terms of his creation and assists. I was a little lower on what I thought he wanted to be in terms of scoring the basketball and shot making. I don't think what we saw last night is necessarily his DNA, but I respect that opinion, of course. Here's where people are going to get mad at me. I have no problem with Cam Whitmore's contest of Cade Cunningham's shot last night. 0. What I have absolute issue with is how he responded to it after Cade fell and obviously was in some pain. I thought that was fake tough guy stuff. I think that he is probably lucky that Isaiah Stewart was not on the court in that moment. And that's kind of where I'm at on that. And to me, that is the ultimate karma or basketball gods or whatever you want to say it. You want to mess around and be a clown like that, then you end up awakening somebody like Cade Cunningham, the rest of the team, and your team took an L for it. That is my thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, you made the point earlier. Cade easily could have, left after that and just like, all right, let's just get ready for Wednesday. And he didn't do that. I do agree to it an extent that I don't think the foul was a dirty foul. I think he made the play on the ball and it just ended up the way it did it up. But when it comes to whether it should have been a flagrant this or that, I think it was one of those plays where it looked worse than the foul actually was just because of how he fell. And But yeah, when you taunt the guy after, then, I think that lends the idea that there was some intent behind what you did. And then that's where it's like, okay, well, that's a dirty play. And it's like, yeah, I mean, you knocked your dude out the air and he's in pain. Like, why are you standing over him like you did something? And JB had an issue with it after the game too. But yeah, like you said, if there's basketball karma, it definitely backfired on them in the end.
Yeah, and the thing was, like, Cam, like, leaned into it even more. He did, like, Cade has the little whatever celebration he does, and then he, like, swiped at JB's hands later in the game as well. It was like the start of overtime or something. JB was pointing at something, and he just was on one. So, Big Dog Pistons ask, is Derek White a good fit on this team? Absolutely. I don't know if Boston would make a move there. I've been someone that has said, I think Boston's just going to keep at least Jaylen Brown, Derek White. Tatum's coming back next year. I would assume they're not moving on from somebody like Derek White, but I think Derek White would be a great fit into this. And so, yeah, let's go to break here. When we come back, Wes has some questions for us, some big picture questions to talk about in terms of, are these things sustainable? We'll get into those right after this.
All right, we are back with segment 3, and I believe we have a question segment from Wes, who so nicely, as he always does, put together an outline for this episode. I'll hand it over to you, Bryce, if you want to get us back into it. Yeah.
MB Wells says it's now 4-week mark. Is there an update on Ivy?
No, not yet. I think like the exact 4-week anniversary will be the 13th, and I think the actual day in October was the 16th. So maybe sometime in the next week, based on that timeline, we'll hear something. Ideally by next episode, but right now there's no update.
All right. So Wes puts us some questions together. Is this sustainable? So some of these things we've actually talked about. We'll see. First one, Cade Cunningham among the league leaders in fourth quarter scoring. Do we think that is sustainable?
Yes. I mean, this is nothing new for Cade as far as being able to take over games late. And everything he's done this season is, stuff he's always done. He's not hitting improbable shots. He's hitting shots that he's always hit. It's just, these games just played out in ways where, he's been able to kind of step up and be the guy down the stretch. Just worked out for him. So to me, that's 100% sustainable.
I think so as well. I think that this is, again, this is who I think he is. I think he is hey, I'm going to score the basketball, but I'm really going to generate offense for my teammates. I'm going to get them going, all of that. And then I'm just going to take over in the fourth quarter and be the man. So I think we're, clutch player of the year, whatever you want to call it. I think that is an award along with all NBA and potentially MVP is something we're going to be talking about with Cade Cunningham this year. I think that's just in his DNA. I think that's who he is. Real quick, before we get to the next one, from 01-02, any news on how Cade's suit, etc., are trending for health-wise for tomorrow's game? So some of you obviously watching live, some of you listening to this on Wednesday. This was my worry coming out of that game is Wednesday going to end up being a schedule loss? Like lots of times you think the second night of a back-to-back, but with how beat up this team is, how many minutes they played, all of that, I'm like, is Wednesday night actually a night where maybe they set some guys, rest some guys, or maybe they just don't have it? So any news on any of those guys in terms of Wednesday against the Bulls?
Yeah. So earlier, Cade was listed as probable tomorrow with a left hip contusion, but that's actually been downgraded to questionable tomorrow with a left hip contusion. So we're talking more of a coin flip if he plays against the Bulls. Obviously not a great sign that he started off as probable and that has now been downgraded, but obviously that was a pretty tough fall he suffered. Jalen Duren is a new entry to the injury report, but he's probable with a right ankle sprain. So many ankle sprains on this team right now, but Duren's probable, so good chance he plays. Tobias is still out. Asar is still out. And then Isaiah Stewart is doubtful. So potentially without Cade, probably without Isaiah Stewart, probably will have Jalen Duren still without a lot of other key guys. So
Daniss Jenkins, let's go.
yeah.
Duren averaging 19 points and 65% from the floor. Is this sustainable?
Yes. Same with Cade. Like, he's doing this in a way that's, in line with what he's done throughout his career. Very high volume alley-oops with Cade. Some more shot creation, which I don't see why he wouldn't be able to keep taking slower centers off the dribble and some of the other stuff he's been doing, like the post-up jump hooks and all that, occasional jumper. Sustainable stuff. I'm going to say yes.
I think so as well. I think actually the thing that could hurt it is, right now he's making over 5 free throws a game because one, his volume is way up.
Yeah, the free throws.
And then the percentage. So he's averaging 3.3 more free throw makes, not just attempts, makes per game. And so as long as that stays, I think that's the trend. If he ends up not doing this, I think that's the reason why. I don't think all of a sudden he's not catching lobs anymore. He's not getting offensive rebounds. He's not involved in the offense, whatever. It's because we get to the end of the year and he's actually down to, 3.5 or 4 free throw makes a game because he's not getting there as much or the percentage doesn't stay where it's at. But, he's been a good free throw shooter in his career. His second year in the NBA, he shot just under 80% and then it regressed last season. It's really the volume. And you mentioned it, taking other centers off the bounce. It's crazy how much he's able to attack them in almost isolation type situations. Next one. Top tier success with 2 non-shooters in the starting 5. Is that sustainable?
So that's a good question. The Pistons have not ranked very well in the 3-point metrics. They've been on the lower end in attempts per game and makes. And just obviously the way the league is trending, where you have teams who are approaching half their total attempts or slightly more from 3. You wonder if over the course of the season, the math just begins to work against the Pistons a bit. I think it is slightly unsustainable. Again, I think when you have the number 1 defense, I think when you generate the amount of points that they've generated inside, and obviously you have some upside, with some guys like Jaden Ivey and Sasser coming back. Those are all going to remedy that. And I think you can win a lot of games with that formula. But yeah, you look at teams that can just shoot threes at a very high rate, Cleveland, for example. Boston, they're not as good this season, but they still will have games with just, wildly swung outcomes just because the math kind of breaks in their favor if those shots are going down. So curious to see how that plays out. But, typically over the course of a season, there will be nights where you just have to be able to buy a bucket, and they're going to have to hope guys like Sasser and Ivy could come in and kind of take some of the pressure of Duncan being like that sole guy.
Wes says that for his side of things, those first 2 were sustainable for him as well. I will say unsustainable in that I don't think that they can have this level of success being 28th in 3-point attempt rate and 20th in 3-point percentage. I don't think you can be bottom 10 in both of those numbers. Either you have to have higher volume, which I don't know what this roster they're going to have. So if they're going to stay on this volume, I think that the percentage has to continue to tick up. Now, we've seen Duncan Robinson get over 40 or right below 40, I guess. Cade's under 29% right now. Tobias is under 29% right now. Isaiah Stewart, I think, actually has the best 3-point percentage on the team outside of Karis LeVert. I mean, Daniss is at, 60, but it's, not on, a whole lot of volume. Paul Reed's, made 2 of 5 or something like that, 2 of 4. So I just think the percentage has to get better. Omari is where I'm at. So I think you can survive with Ausar and Duren on the court if Cade's dribble 3-pointer is going down and Ivy's in the lineup making 38% and Duncan's over 40%. But if that's not the case, then I think especially in the playoffs, which this is where my mind's already going. This team is good. So I'm already thinking what's sustainable into the playoffs. I don't think the way they're taking and making threes right now is sustainable for top tier success. And that was the statement here. Top tier success, not just 45 wins, but top tier success. they have to have more floor spacing in some way. Next one, top 3 team in points allowed per game. And he says, he emphasizes top 3 in the positive way. For reference, they are 4th as well in just defensive rating, just 0.2 behind the 3rd place Dallas Mavericks.
Man, I wish it were like top 5 and not top 3. I think that they will be in that range. I think it is sustainable that they will be in the range of 3. They're currently 4. I'm just going to twist the question a little bit and say, I think they'll continue to be in that top 5 range. Again, I think everything Duren is doing defensively is sustainable. Isaiah Stewart, somehow he's got even better from last season. He's one of the league's top shot blockers right now. Asar, he's done his thing on that end. Obviously, I think you have some guys off the bench, like we talked about earlier, and Paul Reed and Javonte Green, who could just give you spurts of defensive activity. Ron also in that category as well. And K's been good defensively. So, up and down the roster, you've got guys who are getting it done. To me, that's sustainable. I don't want to bury myself to top 3, but I think you're in that group with teams like Orlando, and they actually haven't been that great to start the season. Cleveland, all those teams are going to, I think, be in that top 5 mix over the course of the year.
So Wes says we're in agreement across
Minnesota too, but go ahead.
I think top 3 is sustainable. I do. And here's why. I think they have 2 elite defenders. They have 2 guys. Listen, Stu's probably not going to end up being eligible for all defense. He's missed some games. He hasn't hit the 20-minute mark in some games already. I worry that he's not going to end up being eligible. But him and Asar are elite defenders in this league. And, obviously they play different positions, which is nice because then there's, some ways they can play off of each other in that way. And I think Karras is rounding in defensively. Jaden Ivey's going to be better than Duncan Robinson defensively. For all of Jay High's shortcoming on the defensive end, he will be better than Duncan. Duncan's defense has been worse than what I thought it was going to be. And I knew it wasn't going to be good. He does some decent things in terms of being in the right position off the ball, and he'll go do some scrappy things here and there, but it's not even like he's a take charges guy like Tim Hardaway Jr. And listen, Duncan's 3-point shooting is, it's so important for this team. Cade, I need to workshop and really spend some time one time thinking, where does he rank defensively among the primary creators in the NBA? So if you took every team's primary offensive creator, where does Cade rank defensively among those 30 names?
I think
it's pretty high.
It's up there. You think about OKC, I think Jalen Williams obviously is high up there, and Shea, I think, is pretty good defensively too. Especially compared to other stars. If you're just thinking the East, then who are the elite guards?
He's better than Brunson.
He's better than Trae Young.
He's better. Donovan Mitchell's pretty good defensively, but I think I would still give it to Cade.
He's just bigger.
Yep. Giannis is better than him.
Yeah, but Giannis is also he's just Giannis. I kind of put him in his own category.
He's better than Maxey.
Yeah, he's better than Maxey.
Better than Miami doesn't have one right now, but in general, it's Tyler Hero.
Yeah.
I think he's probably better than Jaylen Brown. Maybe be close. He's better than Paolo.
Yeah.
He's better than LaMelo Ball. He's better than Tyrese. I realize Tyrese is hurt right now, but we're talking top 3 in the East. I think you'd have an argument for top 5 in this specific conversation. My point is, to me, that makes him a good defender. When your offensive engine is in this conversation, that means he's a good defender. It's kind of like the Jalen Duren conversation. Has Jalen Duren really improved defensively? No question. He has gotten miles better. But for the anchor of the defense, he's still probably just fine because of what you want your big man to be. For Cade to be this good on the defensive end when taking on the offensive load, that's just so huge. And to that point, I think that's why you can manage to have a Duncan Robinson on the court. Because if Cade was playing Trae Young defense, you can't also have Duncan Robinson on the floor. Then you are just screwed on the defensive end, even having two defenders like Asar Thompson and Isaiah Stewart.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's massive that Cade, I think on this worst nights is still pretty neutral. Like you never have to hide him. And that, I mean, just having that baseline of like your best player, I think helps a lot. Atlanta has to do a lot to try to hide Trae Young. New York went and got, two big defensive wings and, they play big to try to make up for what you're losing with having Brunson out there. Cade, I mean, not only is he like size-wise matching up with just about anybody you're putting on the other side, like he's also making really high-effort defensive plays over the course of a game. He's a very underrated chase down block artist, like weak side blocks. Like he's been coming up with steals, I think, more this season. Just extremely active, knows what's going on, but just very, very active. Like if you're talking about primary guys, like in the East, like I don't know if there's more than two guys better. And if you include the West, like again, I mentioned the guys in OKC, but I can't think of too many guys on the West either who I would put on Cade's level.
So Chili says Cade was getting cooked by Maxey. I guess this is kind of my point.
Maxey's cooking everybody.
My point is like, that's not the standard I'm holding him to in this conversation. You know what I mean? Like Cade is nowhere near an all defense level defender. Asar Thompson is, 20 times better than him defensively or whatever. That's probably hyperbole. You know what I mean? But it's like when you compare him to every other primary, initiator of offense, he's just not a guy that you have to hide. YouTube user says Cade's not great on the ball. I think he is at times, not great, but I think he's good at times. I think you can put him on the other team's third perimeter guy and he holds up fine. Like Trae Young is so bad at times defensively, you can't hide him on anybody. You know what I mean? So hopefully my point comes across the right way because no, I don't think he can guard Luka Doncic and Tyrese Maxey and the other team's best player. That's why you have Asar Thompson. I'm just saying when you factor in that role offensively, I think he's pretty good on the defensive end for that role, not in general. I want to get to some questions before we get out of here. Thomas asked, will JD's offensive game keep improving this year? Short jumpers. We've seen him take a couple mid-range jumpers. That would be interesting because I think bigs are going to want to play back off of him because he's shown that ability to attack them off the bounce.
Yeah, I mean, if he's knocking down 85% of his free throws, I have no qualms of him shooting from mid-range at all. I think that's the type of consistency you want to see, and he has knocked some of those down. So I can see that continuing to be something that becomes a part of his shot diet. He's not going to stop. If anything, he's going to start taking more. So yeah, I think he will.
He also asked, what is Danniss's upside? I'm not saying he would get here. I mean, I think the ultimate upside is he turns into a true backup point guard. I don't think he's a starting point guard in this league, but if he really shoots it well, figures out kind of the scrappy defensive stuff and all of that, is there a world where Daniss Jenkins becomes a backup point guard that plays 18 minutes a night? I think that world exists. I don't know what the percentage is. I think the most likely outcome is he's like the fifth guard on your team that is player 11 through 15 in your rotation.
Yeah. Daniss does a lot of the stuff you want from a backup point guard, all around productive. I think he holds up defensively in certain matchups. Obviously can knock down threes. Obviously sees the floor. And I thought some of the mistakes he had last night were things that was just ironed out with experience as parts of the game slows down a bit for him. So I'm in the same boat as Bryce. I think he's shown he can be a guy that could be a rotation guard, and you could feel pretty good about that.
Steven Suggs asks, is Stu the future starting four? He rocked coming in for Harris. I don't think I'm ready for that conversation right now, especially with 59 minutes into the pod. O2, do you have any quick thoughts on it?
I mean, to me, I still see him as like a 4-5 hybrid, but I don't necessarily want to start him at the 4. I think it's great that he has that in his back pocket where if you need to do it, you could do it and feel pretty good about it. But I still don't see him as a permanent 4. I see him as primarily a 5 who could, play 4, depending on the matchup.
Wes says we have plenty of sample size of not winning basketball to know that Stu at the 4 isn't necessarily a great long-term idea.
I don't think you maximize him at the 4.
So my thing is, here's what I love about what this has looked like. You get 48 great minutes at center between Duren and then Stu. You get Paul Reed minutes when you need them. Like that all just works for me. And then Stu gets 20% of his minutes at the 4. Maybe in a certain playoff series, you do start it, right? Like you end up playing the Giannis Bucks with Miles Turner, and you think that somehow that's better for you with Stu in the starting lineup, especially a post-Harris version of this team or a non-starting 4-man Tobias Harris, depending on how you replace that and whatever. I think that there is definitely times, and again, maybe 20%, more so than what I thought coming into the year, especially now that he's shooting threes again. I just don't know that starting him there is what I would want to do, but the minutes have looked okay. Like they've figured it out. So I want to finish with some look ahead. So upcoming schedule is the Bulls. They play the Sixers again in their second, what do we call this? The NBA Cup. They play the Pacers, the Hawks. What's the most interesting matchup here? Is there a storyline? Is it that NBA Cup game? What are you thinking over this next 4-game sample?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, these are all pretty good games. You have 2 rematches with Chicago and the Sixers, and Chicago caught them off guard on opening night, and I think they've caught a few teams off guard this season. I think they're 6-3. They've actually been pretty good to start the year. Some of that's going to depend, I think, on who's healthy for the Pistons. But, knowing who Boston is now, that's just a game you can't sleep on. So I want to see how they come out. Sixers rematch. Well, I mean, they always play good games against the Sixers. I feel like you got to see if Embiid and maybe Paul George, if they're back for that one and if that tips the scales. Personally, I would say like that Hawks game, I'm curious to see how they look in. The Hawks have really, I thought they had a good offseason. They've got 2 guys they could put on Cade and Bryce and Daniels and the kid Alexander Walker, who I think, granted, I think Cade has gotten the better of Bryce and Daniels a lot of times when they've played. But, between them, Jalen Johnson, you've got, a pretty intriguing roster, and they've got size, obviously, with Porzingis. So definitely want to see how they match up in that one. I don't think Atlanta's gotten off to quite as good of a start, but some of that's Trae Young being out, too. I'm not sure what Trae Young's timetable is. Like, if he's back, that changes things a little bit. But
I don't think that that's in the cards. He'd be reevaluated in 4 weeks. That was November 1st. So he's out for the month of November for sure.
Yeah, but Dice has been playing pretty well. So we'll see. We'll see. If I had to pick one game out, I think I'm probably most intrigued by the Bulls, but the Hawks are up there too.
So my official prediction here will be the Bulls have lost 3 in a row. I don't know if Giddey's playing. Let me look at that real quick. He's questionable. Kobe White's still out. I'm nervous what team we're going to see on the floor for Detroit on Wednesday night. So I'm actually going to chalk that up as a loss. Sorry to be negative here. And then I think they're going to win 3 in a row to close out the week. So I think they lose to the Bulls on Wednesday. I kind of want them to, go for it in the NBA Cup. I think that Sixers game is another one they can get. I don't think Joel Embiid will play in that game. Came out today. He's getting reevaluated on his other knee, his right knee. And so, yeah. And then the Pacers obviously have just been, ravaged by injuries on top of the ones they came into the year with. And then I think that Hawks game could be a good game even without Trae Young. So I'll predict a 3-1, win-loss over these 4 games, with, unfortunately, the win streak coming to an end on Wednesday night against Chicago due to the Pistons. And this is kind of projecting that a lot of these guys don't play Wednesday, and then they get, incorporated back into the lineup through the rest of the week.
Yeah, it's also a home-friendly schedule. Next year are at home, and then you've got 2 days, between their NBA Cup game against Philly Friday, and then their following game Monday against the Pacers. And the Pacers have been pretty bad. So, you would hope that would be, especially if you get a bit healthier, something that could get you back on track if you have any issues against the Bulls.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in live. We appreciate the engagement tonight. Was absolutely unreal. Greetings from Southern Cal here. So yeah, we not just our overseas listeners and followers, but also everybody within the United States, just all over the world. We appreciate you guys so much. But thank you for tuning in live. The comments would truly, this is one that was, I got lost in the comments sometimes, not in a negative way. There was just so much coming in all the time. I appreciated you guys so much. Obviously the super chats, RB, our guy. And if you're listening after the fact, thank you as well. We appreciate your support over on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, whatever. Pistons Fan 11 says, when is the next episode live? I would say either Sunday or Wednesday. I think most likely it will be next Wednesday. And we're really going to try to get a very, very special first-time guest for that episode. So we'll see what we can do, but that's what we're hoping for. Outside chance it's Sunday, but I would say most likely next Wednesday. Mr. Ray says, great show, fellows. Hope you and the rest of the chatters have a great rest of your week. Yes. Hope everybody has a great week. O2, take it away, my guy.
Big thanks to our audio producer, Robin Chan, our editor-in-chief, Nicole Avery Nichols, our executive producer, Bill Bradley, and big shout out to Wes Davenport, as always. And we'll talk to you all next week.